Hello, welcome to Deep Down. I'm your host, Jordan Hunt, and today I'm very lucky to be joined by Bryony Pennington, who is a dancer and facilitator, but really their magic lies beyond definition. A long-time friend and sometime neighbour. I really hope you enjoy our chat today. Bryony Pennington, thank you for joining me on Deep Down. How are you today?
Fabulous.
It's nice to see you. It's such a glorious day, and I feel like spring's on its way.
Yeah, I hope so.
I
really hope so.
Cold.
I did see the little flowers come up, and I thought, oh, yes, this is the best time of year.
Yeah.
And actually, sometimes I miss that. Sometimes I miss the seasons. I think in work, I realise how much I miss the seasons because I'm just going in and out of somewhere, not really paying attention to the outside. And even just this is the first time I've had a winter off work.
In the UK?
Yes, but I've been outside quite a lot and running and doing things. And I've really noticed, actually, we go, oh, it's so dark, it's so dark. I've not felt that at all. I think because I've actually been out, I've really tried to get out when it has been light. And days like today are just like, oh, such a godsend. But I've really noticed that sign of spring that I've actually never really even clocked before. It's always felt a bit like, oh, we get a bit of a summer and then we get winter. And this really feels like a change in the season. It's so nice. My God.
Could you introduce yourself to anyone who might not already know you?
Yes. Well,
that doesn't only have to be in terms of your career, but...
Yes. Well, I'm Bryony Pennington. I dance. Dance is my main source of income.
I dance.
Yes.
Rather than I'm a dancer.
Yes. I think it's important to say that because that is not my whole identity and it's not how I spend all of my time. And it's a huge part of who I am, and all my dancing experiences have shaped me, but there is a human underneath that, not underneath it, actually on top of it all. I think it's important to say that it's something that I do and it's something that I love, but it's not something that I am. And that might be controversial to other people.
I can see why you might think it might feel controversial, but from my perspective, having tried to carve out my own existence over the past 20 plus years of my adult life, I feel it's more just questioning that label that is overused when just someone says, oh, you're a composer or a dancer or a singer. What does that actually mean for you? Sometimes it can be really empowering. For example, I now can say that I'm a singer, but for years I just used to say I sing because I didn't feel good enough in terms of imposter syndrome, that I wasn't well trained enough. I didn't deserve to say I'm a singer. It felt like, no, that's surely only one tiny fraction of my being. So yeah, it's interesting how you've danced for so long and now you've arrived at the fact that, but I'm not just a dancer. So what else do you do besides dance?
I read a lot. I run, which is quite new. I teach dance. I'm a facilitator. I've been in lots of spaces where I'm facilitating other people's kind of dancing and movement. I feel like I'm starting to find what that is a bit more, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I love being in a room and just making other people feel good. I love it.
That is such an interesting perspective. It's really encouraging perspective. I don't think I've ever heard an educator or facilitator say that that's their drive or that's what they love. From my experience, because I actually did a course in kind of collaborative composition. It was all about the technique of trying to give people what they want. And the joy of being the practitioner was never at the forefront of it.
Oh my God. I can't imagine there being any other way to do it, truthfully, because even that itself, okay, of course it gives me money and it pays, but there's something about the joy, for me, in everything that I do, like facilitating and also even progressing, I guess, into more management positions or positions where I'm now the older member of a group and I'm seeing younger dancers come through and being in a position of that. How much I love seeing people succeed. I really love it, and I love it's not only success, but it's seeing them feel good about what they're doing. For me, I started to dance I continued to dance actually. I didn't start to dance out of joy. I just went because I'm probably an overactive child and my parents were like, go. But the actual reason that I have stuck at it, I think, is because it brings me joy at the baseline level. It is joyful to me. And when I teach, of course, technique is important. It's so important. But actually, everyone else is saying that. So can I not be the teacher that actually reminds them of the joy? And I'm sure other people do. I'm not saying I'm the only one. But everyone's like, point your toes. No, I have been in classes where that is totally other people saying it's not an original. But for me, it is the most important thing, that it comes from joy. It's not about what you look like, it's about what you feel. And particularly projects I've been doing recently are with people who are not dancers or don't see themselves as dancers. They 100% are, but they don't say, oh yes, I'm a professional dancer. They are people with wonderful other jobs, that they do. And they offer their time to this project, and children, they're taken out of school and they give their time to something where we facilitators are there to try and make them a dance piece, a 15, 20-minute dance piece. It is magic. I've never seen anything so wonderful unfold in front of my eyes. Like, they are so brilliant at creating movement. Better than professionals, I think, because it's so raw.
That's where it comes from. It feels like a really beautiful instinct to follow. Because most of my income is from teaching at the moment. Not that I haven't also performed and been paid to write and so on, but I really need security in my life, and so that provides me with a stable way to pay the rent. But I've found over the years, because you obviously have to advertise yourself if you're doing individual music tuition somewhere, and there was a point at which a friend of mine was asking, how's the teaching going? And I said, oh, I've only really got about 3 pupils at the moment. And he was so confused. He said, but you're Jordan Hunt. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, let me look at your teaching bio or your profile. And it was just like, I will provide grade 5 violin tuition or blah, 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 blah on the piano. And he said, that just does not sell anything of who you are or what you do or what you love about teaching. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
And so I realized I was just kind of copy-pasting other teachers' profiles, thinking, well, that's how you get pupils. That's how it works. That's what you need to do. And I totally rethought my presentation to the world in that first impression, when people are searching through violin teachers in London. So I realized that my place of magic was that I specialize in teaching music for pleasure rather than teaching people to get a grade 5 on the violin, because I actually have zero interest in taking people through the grade system. If they want to do a grade for their own sense of having a goal and something to work towards, it's really useful. But I have found that actually most of the people who come to me really naturally are just trying to revive something they started when they were younger, lots of adults, or people who've desired their whole lives and finally being brave enough to be vulnerable and take the leap of faith and start learning. And that's why I love teaching so much, and why, although it can be tiring, it's so energizing at the same time. So I can really resonate with what you're saying about...
But that word pleasure is so important. I think in life in general, I think just a realization for me is that actually we should be living our life full of pleasure. For me, I feel like that should guide me through. It has to be like that, because there is so much that is difficult and there are so many hurdles at all times, but what's guiding me through is that, and therefore how can I help other people too, and guiding them through that path. But I think pleasure is such an important word there. Yeah.
I feel I can really sense that from you and about you, because although actually we were neighbours for a year or two, like literally next door neighbours, we shared a roof terrace in Whitechapel in London. I never saw you because you had this inspiring view of living your life from the number one priority, seemed to me, pleasure first.
Yeah.
And if work can fit in around that, then great.
Yeah, totally.
I am terrified of that perspective. That's why my work is based from home. I need this very solid sense of security. I'm sure it comes from my past and kind of financial pressures growing up. But at the same time, it's so inspiring to see you occasionally, fleetingly in person, but to hear about your exploits and travels and adventures around the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Which seems to be wholly guided by pleasure.
Oh, completely. Yeah, and sometimes that works more than others. But yeah, it's sort of funny thinking about London and that flat. I really loved that flat, but I just was never there. I was never there.
It seems from my perspective that you love an adventure.
Oh, yeah.
What's your thought about having a solid home base versus gallivanting?
Oh my God. That's a really good question because I really felt a need for home sort of mid last year. I've been away for 9 months. I've been out of the country for 9 months, gallivanting around, having honestly the time of my life. I was in my element. I loved it. But I had a feeling of, I'm not quite sure where I'm coming from anymore. I think I have always felt this sense of I have a base and I have a home that I'm never there. But when I was away, I was thinking, oh my God, what am I away from? I know that sounds like a strange thought, but being abroad and not having a base back home, I thought I was going to feel free of it, but actually it made me feel like, ooh, what am I away from? So when I came home, my goal really was to try and find that sense. And I feel like I've been attempting that for the last 6-7 months where I haven't been performing, and I've actively taken that decision to not do that, to just, because that is a huge part of why I gallivant, because my work takes me away, and luckily I just enjoy that, at the same time. But it is a barrier in that finding a sense of home, and have learnt my sense of home has never been about a place. It has been about people. And my parents, I've been so fortunate really, but they have always had that. They've held my sense of home, I think, that they could be wherever they are in the country, in the world. And if I was to go to them, that would make me feel like home. And actually, they've been out of the country for the last 3 months. And I've really noticed how that feels to be the one here. But them not being in this country has left me feeling without a home. And I think that's a really special thing. I'm so lucky that that's the relationship I have with them. But it is a real thing for me. I noticed that it's about people, and I'm so easygoing. I actually don't mind where I am, and I'm really happy to keep moving. Actually, a nomad life fits me fine, but it's about the people. I don't necessarily want to do that alone. I like to be with someone or some people and find an element of community there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned this feeling of realizing I'm not sure where I am coming from, literally, physically, geographically, and maybe spiritually. What's the drive towards the travel and the touring and the adventure? What are you maybe looking for? Or is that even conscious?
That's a really good question. Is it conscious? I think I'm a thrill seeker. I love challenge. I love to feel stretched. I love to feel pushed. I don't know. I think I have a real innate sense for adventure. I really love it. I love seeing the world. And I just think that it's a privilege to grow old. And there is no way that I'm going to wait until I'm retired, to do that. I think it's a privilege. I'm not going to wait till I'm 65. I might not make it. And that's not I just think that I look up a lot. I really do. I look up at people. I'm very observant, and I take on things, and I sort of look at situations and think, I want that or I don't. And I think I've learned that from people in my family, their choices that they make, people just in my life in general, friends, colleagues. I take a lot from who people are and their experiences and how they've lived their life or lives. And I almost see it as a bit of a blueprint or a map to something, and I kind of pick and choose those parts. And it's taken me a bit of time actually to do that. And actually now, at this point in my life, I feel more certain that I will always never know where I'm going, what I'm doing, who I'm going to be around. And I've settled on that, actually. It's given me a lot of freedom to just acknowledge that I don't really want the security of one place all the time.
Or the trap of one place.
The trap of one place. Oh.
The false sense of security,
Yes.
just physically being in one place, which is not necessarily the same.
Yeah.
It's funny, in my notes, I wrote down freedom and circled it, because when I think of you, I just think, Bryony's so free.
Oh, that's so lovely. I do feel free. I really do. I haven't at times in my life, but I do, particularly at this point. And you know what? The guiding thing for me is always, it's inside, like whatever it is, the right decision, the wrong, or whatever, the guiding thing for me comes from within. It really does. I don't know if everyone has a little kind of voice inside their head that is there. I don't know what, it could be anything. It could be a god, it could be anyone. But for me, it is my voice that I hear, and my reflections, my lessons. I hear it all, and I just try to go with that. And it's within me. I don't really search for it in anything else. I don't listen to what other people want me to do. In fact, I don't want other people's opinion, which is probably why I'm free, because I don't ask, I just do a lot of the time. I don't ask how other people will feel if I do that. I've never asked my parents, or I don't tell them if I'm going to do something. I'll just do it, and then I'll learn the lessons along the way. I don't want other people's opinions. I just want to do it, and I'll learn, whether it's good or bad.
I think that's behind the instincts to why I knew I wanted to go deep down with you, because although the way you conduct your life is quite foreign to the way I've structured my own, I still trust and resonate that it all comes from this really honest place of discovery and editing and refinement. It doesn't feel like you're escaping when you're traveling, or that you're running away from anything, or that you're going out of fear. It really feels like you're going towards joy. And that's what's so inspiring. And although I hardly ever get to see you in person, I kind of trust Bryony's good.
Yeah, I am. I'm really lucky that I am. I just am following my path. I think actually it's also realised I'm sitting in this well at this point in my life. I think it's taken me a long time to understand that that's an okay way of life, or that's an okay way to be, because there are structures and there's sort of a guidebook that we're all given, you know, and
you can react to.
Yes, but unpicking that, and I think I've tried to do that in many forms, like my sexuality, gender. I think I've always been trying to unpack or read between the lines of that guidebook of what, you know, our societal life is supposed to look like. And I have never felt that that's right. So in all aspects of my life, I've tried to question that, I think, and change it. And there's been maybe a small struggle with that, but I think it's actually less than struggle, more an untangle of what, when you throw the rule book out, you then are making up your own rules. How fun.
Exciting.
Yes, there's a point in that that's really difficult, because you're trying to then go like, what do I want? There's almost too much choice.
Then you really have to know yourself to know, what do I like? What do I want?
And weirdly, I will say, 2 really good lessons I learned recently are from running. I've been running, and I probably shouldn't be running because I don't have great Achilles, but I am running despite that, because 2 things. The first one that I loved, and all my successful runs happen when I don't follow a route and I just go where my body tells me to go. And the most successful ones I've had have been either somebody else is next to me running and I don't really know where we're turning, and they're aware of the route and I'm not. Love it, that's great. I don't want to know when it ends, just like keep me going, great. Or if I've been on my own, that I don't sort of try and figure out, okay, if I run that way, and remember, just follow the nose, just go and find, and often I'll always end up in a circle anyway. So following the instinct of where to go. And then the other one is when you feel like you should go faster, go slower. When you feel that like almost fight to push, you actually should just pull back and go slower. And I really feel like it's so weird to connect that, but I've really felt that actively change how I am going to go through my life at this point now, I think, because I've done everything at such a speed and so quickly.
Mm-hmm. I remember your 12 countries in 12 months plan.
I know, and I did it in 9 months.
Oh my gosh, but that was quick.
Yeah, and just I think I've done everything at 100 miles an hour. I left home at 16, I did a degree at 19, I lived in another country, I came back, I've worked with a company, you know, everything has happened so quickly. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, like when am I going to be like 40? Do you know what I mean? I'm 27. Every time I get to a birthday, I think, oh God, only that, you know? It's like, I'm tired. Not quite, but I'm aware that I've gone very quickly through my life, and actually I'm at a point now where I think I'm really settled with who I am and how I guide myself through my life. But it's okay now to just pull back a little bit and just actually enjoy it as well. Enjoy and not have to reach. There's no end goal. There's no end goal. It's just be.
It really reminds me of a line that I take with my pupils who, when we're practicing something slowly and then we try and do it faster, and immediately everything tenses up, whether it's violin or piano or whatever. And my advice is always just lean back, sit back, try and sit behind the beat. If we're trying to go faster, feel slower. Tell your nervous system to calm down, because the only way that you will get faster and get it together is through kind of a Zen, calm approach. It never manifests itself through adding more tension and throwing more energy at it. That you have to do the opposite. It's very interesting observation over the years, because this is sort of in the past 5 years where I've finally noticed, oh, that's how it happens with myself in order to be able to teach that. And then the other thing you said about following your instincts for the path, which really feels like you're doing in your life as well, not just on your running trails.
Yeah, completely.
And it makes me think how a queer life is an interrogated life. And it's such a gift to have to go through some kind of discovery of the self and where you fit into the world or don't fit into the world. And you mentioned community earlier, which I've known you to be in touring dance companies. And I know that in recent years you've had the amazing privilege to be principal roles in those shows. But I also know that you are a person within a community and that you would never think of yourself as better than anyone else just because suddenly you're on stage that night in the lead role as opposed to the ensemble.
No, it's so important that everybody is part of a team, regardless of your. Oh, I can't stand stages. I just think hierarchy. I know it has a. I can see why it has a benefit, and I can see that that's just what we like to do as part of human nature. I just think it's a load of rubbish. I just think nobody is more important in a room ever, and I just think that there are things that stick with me. And I remember writing my dissertation at school, and I remember reading this brilliant book. It actually had nothing to do with dance, but it was actually a quote on how you should run a business. I guess it can be translated to anything, how you'd run a team, a sports team. And it's really stuck with me. And the line is that you should always listen to the quietest voice in the room. And I'm aware that I probably have one of the loudest voices in the room, and there's a lot of power in that. But I just think that doesn't mean that I have more to say, or what I have to say is more important than someone with a quieter voice. And if you think about it in terms of a hierarchical view, it's the person who has the least status. So if you're in a building and you're having a meeting about your company, your whatever, you should be talking to the people that clean that building. You should be asking them how they are and how they are finding work. You should be asking everyone, no matter what rank or what you're doing in that building, you should be talking to the very top, yes, but the very top need to be asking the people who are on the lowest pay, how are you doing? Are you good? You know, saying hello to people in the morning. It's like, it's so small, but the people who have what we consider, in fact, I should correct myself there, what we consider to be the smallest job, we should be raising and still asking those questions. Are people leaving this building in a nice enough state for you to come in, you know, at 5 a.m. and clean out the bins? You know, it's just like, how is that for you? Can we make it better? That's in a world I actually don't understand, you know, but in terms of a dance company, the quietest voice in the room, and that's across all, that's not only in the dance, the artistic side, that's the people in the office, that's the people who are working and doing the sort of outreach side that sometimes don't get any kind of look in, sometimes you don't even know they're there, you know, or the people who work in the tech side. I just think that it's so important that we listen to everyone, particularly as someone with such a, you know, I say it, but like quite a confronting presence. And I recognise that.
I don't think you're as confrontational, but you are direct and you are yourself. I can see it. I almost feel like maybe you've learned that perspective from witnessing people's reactions to you. But as from my instinct or perspective, there's nothing aggressive or negative about the way you confront topics head on.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I hope not.
You clearly have an instinct that stretches beyond the regular realm of role of dancer.
Oh yeah.
That luckily is being recognised. I know that with New Adventures, what's the new role that they have?
Emerging leader. Emerging leader is what it's called, which is very lovely. It also feels kind of strange, but a wonderful.
Right?
Okay, yes, it does in terms of what it is and what I will be doing. It doesn't in terms of the label. I'm always a bit like, because it feels, I don't know, maybe people may expect me to like to blow smoke up my ass, but I don't like doing that. It does make me feel slightly uncomfortable, and I always go for the humor in it. Like I'll be like, you know, when you say principal dancer or like emerging leader, I think, that kind of makes me feel uncomfortable, and it's not an imposter thing, and it's not a thing that I feel like I shouldn't be doing it. I just am aware that titles are following on really from what we've said. Titles just have this part in me that makes me feel uncomfortable, because I guess if I had it my way, I'd want to be something like an emerging guider or an emerging listener. Yes. Something that is appropriate to what next step would be, or what the job title, not a job yet, but you know, a title would be, but maybe something more appropriate to how that should, like leadership. I guess that encompasses, but actually a lot comes with that, a lot of responsibility, and it should not come from ego. And I really am trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I think part of that is also that it shouldn't really be called emerging leader. It should be emerging, listener is lovely. I love that.
Maybe that's part of your job, for want of a better word, your role, to question the title. Yeah,
but I'm thrilled. I've been really fortunate with that company to continuously keep someone with brain that tends to go at 100 miles an hour, busy and developed. Like I feel like I've constantly, every contract I've taken with them, I feel like I'm put in a position of development or being challenged. And this continues that, I guess. I did have to apply for it. When they sent out the email, I thought, I don't actually fit into any of those. Like I don't actually qualify, but I've been given the email, or the email's been sent. I was like, double check, they've not sent it to the wrong Bryony, or whatever, I don't know. Or like, oops, I checked the criteria, and I actually didn't really fit into any of those, but it was lovely to receive the email, and I just thought, well, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't fit the criteria, but I'd love to do it. And that's classic me, I think. I just am like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And I didn't expect to get it, because I've always, you know, I felt a bit young, and I feel like I'm too young to really be put in those positions. But I have done everything at 100 miles an hour, and I do think that this is an appropriate next step for where I am at?
I think you're ready. I think you've been ready for a long time, probably. So I'm glad that you took the initiative to actually apply for it. So often I feel part of our self-definition comes from these gentle nudges from external places. The fact that they think you're ready, or that they probably have known that you're ready for a while and are very relieved that you've actually applied, because, you know, sometimes it takes a little nudge from the universe to make us realize, oh yeah, that was what I was always meant for. It reminds me, I did a similar titled course in creative leadership at the Royal College of Music, 2007 to 8. I was sort of, I don't know, for want of a better word, headhunted to be on the course. I think it was a new course at the time. I don't know if it's still going. And someone approached me saying, would you apply for it? Consider applying for it. It's a very small, bespoke course, only 5 people. And 5 people with like 5 tutors and all of this work experience is really such a gift.
How amazing.
And the title of the course, Creative Leadership, I always forget that. I've been prompted to remember from this chat, but actually it was collaborative composition. And I never felt on the course, or in the projects that we did, we were effectively being taught how to do educational musical outreach projects, that it was about being a leader. It was always about being a listener and trying to respond to these specific people in this specific setting to try and get the best out of them. And I always remember really, really sweetly one of my classmates, everyone was a little older and more experienced than me, saying, Jordan, whenever you run a little session, because we'd obviously try out ideas on each other, you've just got such a calming presence.
Oh, you do. It's so true.
And that has always stuck with me. That was like 15 years ago now. Because I had no idea. I was constantly, at the time, fighting the fact that I wasn't loud enough. I know I'm quite softly spoken naturally. When you're putting yourself in those situations where you've got to sort of shepherd a group or run a room, you just literally have to be louder in decibels. And it felt like a real going against the grain for my nature. And the great discovery over that year of learning how to do that kind of work was, no, my unique way of doing this is by quietening the volume in the room so that the quiet voices can be heard. And I was one of those quiet voices. And I have no claim on leading the energy in this room. I'm just trying to shepherd you all to create something that was already there.
And that's so powerful. Because actually, and this is the brilliant thing about collaborating or collaborative or co-teaching, co-creating, is, you know, to have that balance of, I don't think one person can do it all. And actually you do need the sort of balance of that. And I think there's all different styles and ways of doing it. And I think it's about owning, like what's really resonated there is that you're owning and learning to own what your power is. And your power is different to mine. It's like, you know, both should be celebrated. There's no one way to do it. I think that's the most important thing. And actually it should really be the most authentic to you. Same with teaching, everything, creating. It should come from an authentic place. You shouldn't have to be, a certain way. And I hope actually with this program that the point is that I think I'll learn. I'm really in a space that I'm ready to hear that I'm not very good at something. You know, sometimes we're not ready to hear that. I think I'm ready to hear things like, oh, actually maybe, you know, you could have approached that differently, or with that person in that particular scenario, there might have been a better way to go around it. And I have been thinking about a few things, and the most interesting thing I'm going to have to learn is that I am the bull and other people are the china. And
What an image.
yes, and I'm really, because I can't change that I'm a bull. I can't change that really, but I can change how the bull walks into the china shop, you know. Like I have to be careful. I can't change who I am, but I can be more sensitive to what my environment is, or who the person is in front of me, or people are in front of me. And I notice that with good leaders or people that I see, people that I look up to, they're able to adapt in a way that they are 100% truthful to who they are, but are able to adapt and they don't have to change, but they do change the way that there are different ways around communication with that person, or some people love tough love and some people really don't, and that's the bottom line. And I think I am direct, and recognizing sometimes that is not the best. Just because that's who I am doesn't mean that's the right way for everything or every situation.
Are you confident in your ability to adapt?
Yes, I am. Again, I'm really happy to be told I got it wrong. I love communication. Don't we all? But I love...
No, not everybody does.
Okay, no, you're right. But not everybody wants to hear that. I'm learning a lot about communication as well on both sides, but I just think that I'm happy for someone to say, let's say, for example, there's a situation has happened, an interaction, two people or multiple people are left feeling whatever they're feeling about it. I think it's so important that we are able to create a space where that person, if they felt hurt, they can come and talk to that person and say, hey, when we had that conversation, I felt hurt. I felt always putting it on how you're feeling.
Perspective.
And also allowing space for the other person to say, really, should be going, thank you so much for having the courage really to come and say that to me. I appreciate it. Here is how I felt in that conversation. And actually, it might not be fixed, but I just think communication and conversation is the most important thing. I mean, in any situation really, but I'm open to hearing if I've hurt someone or something I said wasn't quite right, because I don't think I'm getting it right all the time. I'm like bound to make mistakes, and I'm quite forgiving of myself, and I just would hope that other people are forgiving. But I can only change and I can only be adaptable if I have that information fed back. If that person doesn't come and tell me how they felt, then I might never know that.
Also not your responsibility
No.
to try and second guess? Or...
No, and I won't do that, because I've done that plenty of times in my life. I'm not going to second guess. But if you would like to come and say something to me, I'm open to it. I really am, because I care about people ultimately, and I do care about how people, I don't really care what people think of me, but I care about how I affect, I don't know which one, but affect people, I think is the correct one. How my presence or what I've said or has had an effect on someone, particularly if it's negative. I would like to know. I'd like to know, and would like to have the opportunity to, I can't say that that's not going to happen, but I'd like to have the opportunity to try and do better in all areas of my life. So yeah, that was a long way round of saying, am I adaptable?
I have great confidence in your versatility and adaptability. It feels like, from my perspective, having met you maybe almost 7 years ago, it's very soon after I met my partner Chris, because I think you might have been in a piece that he was in, the Ariel Smith piece. And then, of course, we've worked together as well. You're in a music video, well, a music video / dance film.
Yes.
Version of Rectify the Past from my album To the Ocean Floor. You weren't in the show, though.
No, I know. That was a shame. Booked and blessed, honey. Booked and busy.
Too busy.
I'm not now, if you want to hire me.
Well, tell us a bit more about your work, because we've talked a lot about you as a person and how you have shaped yourself within your work life. But I'm sure there have been instances whilst you're at work where you're also having to shape your perspectives on yourself and your surroundings. And I can imagine that in your recent role as Juliet in Romeo and Juliet with Matthew Bourne's company, that you might have come up against some internal reshuffling. Or...
Yes, that's a lovely way of putting it. I like that. Reshuffling indeed. You know what the big realization was? It was a wonderful role, a role I'd already contributed to in 2019, I think, when we first did it, and had the experience of performing. But what was interesting this time is I was I don't say a completely different person. I'm not. The soul is still the same. Yeah. But so much information and so much change and growth had happened in that time that revisiting it, kind of mind-blowing really. But the reshuffling definitely came from, I did it and I thought, yay, like I've done it, I've ticked something that was so huge to me, the goal of doing that was so big, being a principal role, like being a poster girl. I loved that was a huge sort of like my childhood dream essentially come true. And I did relish in that completely. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I also remember thinking like, oh, you know what I've also really loved, and I think I love just as much, is watching somebody else that I've taught the role to, I've helped give pointers. I love seeing them up there and succeeding. Watching Hannah, who's younger than me, and I was her mentor when she was coming into the company, just watching her go up there and do it in a completely raw and beautiful, passionate way, and know that that's her up there, but part of what I've said, little pointers in certain directions, has gone in, and I can sort of see that. And it's not me, I have no claim over her in any way, but just to know that I've been part of that, I don't want to say success story, because what is success? But her journey.
Her achievement.
Her achievement, yeah, and I loved it. And, you know, I shared the role with Monique Jonas, who is just a brilliant artist, and to watch her do it as well. And I think we all brought something completely different to that role in particular. But it was an interesting journey for me to go, oh, this feels like actually a bit of an old dream. This feels like something that I wanted. I don't know what I was expecting really. And it wasn't a disappointment at all. It happened. It happened and it was lovely.
I think I remember chatting to you one of the one times that you were at home when we were neighbours on the little terrace at the back about your decision. I'm not quite sure if you had actually decided to take the role at that point, but you knew that it was a huge commitment for many, many months on the road. Mm-hmm. It seemed quite an instinctive yes or no.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it seemed like it was maybe at odds with where you were at or where you thought you had arrived just before you kind of got the offer. It felt like, oh, that has almost come out of left field and that maybe you weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
I think I did have reservations about it because it is such a commitment to go away, to gallivant. It's a selfish decision. Like, it's a really selfish decision to tour.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and I wanted to talk a little bit about owning your schedule, because although we're both technically freelancing, I feel like I have structured my time so that although I'm bound to my diary and who I book in to teach and whatever gig I say yes to, fundamentally the year and years ahead are all my own to plan. I can plan when I want to release music or not. Plan when I'm going to start a new podcast season, whatever. And it's all within my control. I think that is probably how I like it. And it seems like to be a freelancer who actually is contracted by someone, it's effectively you're stepping into a temporary job where you're sort of employed and then have to give a chunk of your freedom away.
Yeah, well, 14 months of your freedom.
14 months.
With a small gap in the middle. So I did do other things in a 3-month gap, but...
I mean, I assume you just feel that's what you signed up for when you started training to be a dancer, that you knew in theory that's where it was headed. Is there ever any conflict with that control over your own schedule?
Yes and no. I think always, for me, probably less so now if a contract was presented to me like that. But at the time, I was definitely thinking like, ooh, that is a really long time to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. The thing that really got me in was the fact that there was an international leg that I hadn't done yet. And I'm really glad that I wasn't given that early on, because I really did go out there and totally appreciated it. I thought, this is not a given. And I'm really thankful that I was sort of slightly made to wait, I guess, because that's not always the case. You know, some of them, they were like 20 and it was their first tour and they're going to these amazing places. I was like...
You've done your dues.
Yeah, no, I've done my dues and I really wanted to do that.
How natural is it for you to relinquish control of your your destiny?
My destiny. Well, interesting.
Because time is equals your life.
Yes. It
Not
really,
too deep or anything, but it's just quite literally.
yeah. I think it probably has been different, but I can speak, I think, really honestly from this point, is that the show has to be worth it, and the people who are doing it. You can't always control that. I think for me now it's about, before it was probably just like, again, I am a dancer and therefore I need to work. Whereas now it's like, I am a human being and I dance. So the dance work that I do has to fit right. And again, it's sort of like when I get a job offer through, I have to let it sit and I trust the gut instinct of that. And if there's any question about the show itself or the quality of it or whatever it is, then it's a no.
Yeah.
And it has to be a no. Because I made that mistake. I said yes when I should
To
have.
other things.
Yeah, or could have. Shouldn't say should, but I really could have taken a step back and done something else. And I paid for that. Not, and I don't want to say in a completely negative, but I learned from that experience. And now I think it has to be right because it does take up so much of your time and it takes you out and away from your, how do I word this, life. Again, something I'm slightly not wrestling with, but trying to untangle is that is real life. Like when I'm on tour, sometimes I felt like, oh, I'm missing out on my life. But this is my life.
Yeah,
this is my life and it's a choice that I've made. And just as much as home or a person or whatever, that only happens, I think, if I'm unhappy or unhappy with my decision. Because actually it's, how can I complain about somebody telling me exactly when I need to be up, exactly when I need to, go and do a class? Like I'm sort of given money to cart my stuff around, and I don't know, to me, schedule is a good thing and I don't mind somebody else organising it. But I do really think that after that period of time, I need time off. I'm really happy to give the majority of, let's say in years, the majority of my year to touring, but there has to be time that I take and it's like off. It's off. It's in wherever feels like home at that time with whoever feels like home at that time. And that is really, 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 really important. And I haven't always taken that, but I will forever, I think, moving forwards.
Was there ever any conflict about the organisation of roles and stepping into a gendered role in a very, very kind of historically classic and important story where the sort of no beating around the bush, it's about a boy and a girl?
Well, yeah, that is an interesting one. I think it was really good for me to do that at that time, to know that I could do that, particularly what was going on for me and sort of questioning gender, trying to step away from that. I do think that I brought something different to her, Juliet, because of who I am, and I was really happy to show that to the world. But it didn't come without some turmoil at times, I think. But what I recognised is that was a discomfort to do with me, not to do with the role. It was a discomfort of trying to think, what we said, sort of figure out where it is that I fit into the world or don't fit into the world. And particularly, I've been really, I don't know if it is a privilege, but I'm going to say that it is. I've been very privileged to go through life being quite a stereotypically beautiful person that things happen quite easily for, I think, because of that. I have struggled with that in terms of, people being, oh, Bryony's so beautiful. I'm like, that's lovely, but does that mean in this very basic way? I don't know anyway, but I think I've really tried to make steps. It's not about I think I'm a beautiful person. I think my being, I would hope to think that it's that rather than what I look like.
Your being is incredibly beautiful. It's effusively beautiful. It just radiates beauty.
But doing that role, what was interesting is I was in that for a long period of time. And then after that, I needed that time in a way. I needed to be out of the country. I needed to be around new people. And then when I came back after that period of time, I've had a real transformation. And I'm so thankful for maybe having to be stuck in that for a little bit of time. I had to sit in that. It wasn't discomfort. I was acting. I was acting. It's like me and another gay boy are like kissing. Of course we're acting. Like me and, Jackson Fish, who I love, we were partnered together a lot, and we were like snogging all over the stage. And we're acting. We're acting. It wasn't.
Maybe it's not that deep.
No. And I think I maybe thought it was more deep. And now, again, it's sort of with hindsight and perspective, isn't it? Because I'm talking about this 6-7 months after I've processed everything that happened on that tour. And those things seem so big in the moment, and actually they're very small. And I've had this real transformation that in my present, I just feel great.
I'm so
I
glad
feel
you feel
good, and I feel truthful. I feel really truthful.
I feel like you act all of these things that you feel. It comes across so clearly. And maybe when you're talking about being confrontational or direct, maybe the fear is that you sometimes see in other people's eyes that they don't feel the same about themselves, and you are just holding yourself up as a mirror to them to be like, I've made intentional choices and you can too.
Terrifying, but yeah, no, I think I also do take some pleasure in that.
Good.
Yeah, I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head there, really. We all are, right? Everyone's a mirror to each other. I feel like lots of people have held up a mirror to me, and that's sort of made me who I am in some ways. Yeah, and it probably is that. I think that can be probably one of the most confronting things, really. And I see it in my mum. My mum is very similar. What people see is this very confident, bubbly, a comfortable woman. But, I know her. She's not actually that. She's had struggles in her life, particularly with other women. But I think it's with a lot of people. It's quite hard for them to see someone be so outwardly comfortable. Particularly, I guess, with women, there's such a way of how we should look. How they're supposed to look. It's literally everywhere. The beauty industry is just telling you what you should look like. And my mum has defied that all her life, but has struggled with it. Has had an internal turmoil of actively going against that. Whereas I think that I've seen that with my mum and gone, oh, that's great. Let me take that. And I don't have the inner turmoil of that. This is what we should look like in order to be a beautiful woman. I said about the haircut.
Yeah.
And just...
Very cute.
Yeah, well, I was using they, them pronouns up until I cut my hair, but I was using they, them pronouns, and I had this long sort of red hair, and it was lovely.
We will see it in the video when it's released.
It might be blonde, actually, in the
really?
video. Yeah, it might be blonde, many shades. Yeah, I was using they, them pronouns, and because that felt... I think what was being presented on the outside, because of the role, I really felt this like absolute need and desire for people to not see woman. Like, don't see woman in me, see a person. And I had this really sort of profound experience where I then cut my hair and just shed all the shit. But I just shed all those layers, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, I'm a beautiful woman. And it's not that I still don't love, woman or lady. Oh God, I can't stand it. But I really do feel like a person. I feel like a person that exists in the world and exists in life. But what used to be hard is when people use she.
Yeah.
She. That was really difficult, and it felt like a bit of a punch in the face every time someone said it. Now people use she, and I think that because I have transformed and become something that I'm very comfortable with, my outside, that can change, that can absolutely change, but I'm just being truthful. People using she has way less of an effect. I'm like, actually, do you know what? Why don't you just see me how you want to see me? I'm less fussed. And maybe that's been a bit of a gender thing for me, understanding that I'm less fussed about the label of what am I, what gender, the pronouns. I'm all for it. But I think personally for me, I've reached a point where I just think, do you know what? I'm just me. I'm me, I'm a person, and I exist, and
Call me what you want, just be nice to me.
yes.
Treat me like a human.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I was applauding at the fact that you saw yourself as beautiful in the mirror. Not
Yes.
necessarily a beautiful woman, you know,
No,
it's
yeah.
so unimportant.
But exactly, and I think that I was like, oh my God, I've struggled with that for such a long time. I've battled against this sort of
Yeah.
she thing, and I cut my hair and I just was like, oh my God, I'm a beautiful girl. It was weird, and it makes me quite emotional because it really was like, oh my God. And I think what it was is I was seeing myself. Also, it took a lot of courage to do it, and I didn't realize how much I was holding in this beauty, standard beauty that I was lucky enough to have, like this gorgeous hair that I just chopped off. I got rid of it. But it really did shed a lot of layers for me, and I'm using humour a bit too much about the whole girl woman thing, but I really did just see me. I think I was trying so hard to not be woman, not be girl, not be da-da-da, and actually I just saw it and was like, you're beautiful and you're just you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
I'm glad you've arrived at the realization of what we all knew already.
I know, God, I'm a bit late to the party, right? Jesus.
How do you intend to use your time in the future? Because, you know, now that you dance, rather than being a dancer, do you want to keep dancing?
Yes, I would like to. I love it. I love doing it. I love the social part of it. My sort of goals, I guess, I don't want to tour back to back. I would really love sort of, in an ideal world, I work 8 months out of the year, and for the rest of the 4, I just kind of bumble around. What I've learned last year, because I sort of did that, I was away for 9 months, I saved a really, really good amount of money, and then I've spent it all in the last 6 months. And again, I'm going to acknowledge it's from a very privileged position because I do have safety net and I do have finances that have really, really supported me to this point. And I have wonderful, wonderful parents who've always sort of caught me. So I acknowledge that it comes from a very privileged position. And I also can't apologise for that because it's not without hard work and it's not without things. But I acknowledge that I'm coming from a place of real privilege. But I did this sort of 9 months and I ended up saving really a considerable amount of money because I can be a real scrimper. When I get on like a task, I'm like, let's do it. Yeah, so I saved, a really, really good amount of money, and I've just lived off that and I've worked here and there. I've done really lovely projects, mostly facilitating and working with non-dancers and outreach projects, various bits of teaching, but only when it's felt appropriate. I've not tried to scramble around and do everything, and I've probably saved money that way as well because I just do stuff that will pay me for my travel and will pay me if I need accommodation. And also, I'm careful with my money and I know how to look after my money and pull back when I need to. My goal really is to dance for those sort of 8 months and then have 4 months kind of bumbling around doing bits and actually living. And I don't mean that when I'm working I'm not, but I'm working. And you can find moments of things outside of that. But yeah, I actually really like who I am when I don't dance just as much.
Because it informs the work then? Completely.
And meeting people, being outside of a bubble, because it's a bubble. Everything, I love that word, bubble. Oh my God, it sounds so good coming out my mouth. Bubble. I love it. Oh, what a great word. It is, lots of things are bubbles, but yeah, particularly a dance company can really become that. A touring group becomes a bubble for a long time. And I have so much pleasure being in it. I get a lot of pleasure from being in it and being part of that and building the team and really embedding myself in. But I also really love when that bubble gets burst and I can just be a hermit for 4 months. Because as much as I am...
Balance.
Yeah, as much as I'm an extrovert and out there and very sociable, and I'd love to... Oh God, I can't talk to anyone. I can't stand still without talking to someone. I love it. I love talking to people at the bus stop. I'm like, hey, where are you going today? At the supermarket, I am a chatter. I am, and that's a real thing of my family. But at the same time, you know, I've had 2 months really of not seeing anyone, not really seeing many friends, the odd one. And most of the time I've spent reading and running, and not completely on my own. Not on my own, but I've really enjoyed taking a very conscious and active step back, step away from London and the bustle of that, stepping away from what is sometimes a very crazy and overwhelming social media scene. I really also think, but sorry, small note on the social media front, but I just am like, who cares? Who cares? I will keep it for work things. I will keep it for work. But I've really felt like, oh my God, this is exhausting. Let me just have conversations with people and they can experience me as, let's just do deep down at all times.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've noticed that because of a step back of social media, actually, I am more inclined to message people that I think, oh, I'm thinking of that person because I don't know what they're doing. I think, oh, what are they doing? And vice versa. I've had people message me being like, where have you gone? You know, I'm happy for that. I don't feel stressed about work or my status in the sort of very small contemporary dance scene. I'm just doing what I do. I dance sometimes. And I also really like, reading.
I think because you're so travelled, you have that perspective that this small London contemporary dance scene is so small and there is life outside of it.
Yeah, and again, it's from a very privileged position because I do work for a company that when I do work with them, I earn a good wage and it's consistent and it can actually afford me time off. I can save enough from that to afford me time off.
I feel very lucky to have had the chance to have a really deep conversation with you. It's almost like the butterfly has landed on my palm. My palm, maybe that's a bit of a strange allegory, but on the back of my hand.
Lovely.
We've had a little moment together, and now we go off gallivanting again.
Fly away to somewhere.
I can't wait to see where you fly away to.
Oh, it never ends. I was keeping everyone on their toes, aren't I?
Don't fly too far. And
No.
that's one of my song titles,
Oh,
which you should listen to on all streaming services. But the sentiment remains that I feel like wherever you are, the connection will keep us close, however far you are.
Yes. I think it's important that we know that. I think there's a lot
Trust.
of trust. It's okay to let people fly and let people be. And also you can't control whether they come back or they don't. You just can't. So enjoying the time that you have, appreciating that. Yeah, and just everyone should just be who they are, you know? Freedom.
Yeah.
Let
Freedom.
everyone be. Yeah, and they might come in and out of your life and those exchanges can be beautiful.
Deep down, what's the point?
Deep down, what's the point? Oh my God. I guess I've probably already said it. Pleasure, joy, truthful. It's going to be different for everyone, isn't it? I just think is so beautiful about your energy and mine is that we actually come from things from completely different angles, experiences and natural states of being, I think, and how wonderful. I just want to say that yours is really wonderful as well, and there's so much to learn from that.
Thank you.
Yeah, on the flip side, because you have a wonderful way that you live your life and the choices that you've made through your life to get to this point and continue to. And everyone has that and everyone is different, but you're truthful. I think that's so brilliant and it's so hard to be that. Yeah. Yeah, but
because you're
are.
so inspiring to show me other ways of living. Because, you know, all I know is what I have learned makes me safe. You know, my body, my choices, my corporeal being has led me to this point where I feel safe and free, but because I've got this structure. And then I see someone like you living your life in a completely different way, which on a surface level terrifies me, but I am reassured that because I can sense where you come from, that it's all towards joy and comes from support, and it always feels safe. Yeah, it's really liberating to live vicariously and to know that because we are so different, there's no point me ever trying to replicate that because it wouldn't be authentic to me. I found my own freedom and you've got yours.
Yeah, and how beautiful. Yeah, magic. Because actually for me as well, just the last few months, it's understanding and learning that how I've taken something from the way you live your life. I've actually done a bit of kind of pulling back and hermit and staying in one place and kind of, not that I think you're a hermit, but you know, you like the comfort of your place and your things. And actually both you and Chris have been in my thoughts a lot because I feel like I've done something that I haven't done and I've maybe been afraid to do.
Stay.
It's just to stay and actually to stop. It's to stop and stay. And I've actually gained so much from that. It's clearly a balance that if I was doing 11 months of that and running 1 month of, you know, like gallivanting, I'd probably rip my hair out. Like, beautiful, beautiful hair. I've learned that actually that is also really good for me.
I could have told you that if you didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But it's all about balance. It's about, you know, I need to leave my shell. Otherwise, I sort of shrivel a bit, which is why this is so, on one level, it's challenging for me to put myself in this position where I'm not being an extrovert, but being on camera, on show, being vulnerable. The easiest bit about this is being vulnerable. The hardest bit is the fact that I'm so aware of being watched because I have no compulsion to be watched at the same time. My compulsion is to share myself and share all the amazing people I know, just show the world, like, look at this person, look how they live, and I know how amazing they are, I want you to know how amazing they are. And so it's the same when I play with my friend Olivia Cheney and play violin and piano and stuff and sing for her, and it's always, my task is to just be as egoless as possible to make the music make sense and to just frame her in different ways. Each different song is different. And I think I've been successful in that over, I don't know, like 15 years of playing with her. Finally arrived at that place where I get a lot from it. It's not an egoless situation where I'm not present. I'm not anonymous on the stage. It's like this vision of all I need to do is just do the very task in an egoless way. It's not about the way I sound, but try and radiate that fully and share it and not be about grabbing attention and like, look at me.
Ta-da!
And I kind of have to remind myself, I do have to like share that with the audience as well.
How beautiful though, that's like you're very good at facilitating.
Yeah, and I've really fought against that because as a composer, you are like a person alone. It's very, you know, so much solitude required to think and just hold ideas and organize them. You need a lot of quiet to be able to do that. So then facilitating other people is like the most amazing balance, counterbalance
Perfect
to that. A sort of artistic, egotistical need, which is really, you know, composing is quite egotistical in a way, where it comes from. I want to be composer and create.
I think we all lead our lives fairly like ego-driven. I really felt that dropping of the ego, and it's sort of magic when that happens because you just go, oh my God, I am so small. I am so small, and there's all these brilliant people around me, and you stop fighting, I think, actually. You stop fighting. I don't know if you've ever felt that, but
Absolutely.
I don't think I've ever felt like I'm fighting to be the best or number one or get to that place. I think if I was, I would have played sports, you know, that's a very clear place that happens. I think when you're creative, there's less of that drive in that sense. Of course, there's like being the best, but it's also so subjective. But it's been
I definitely
really...
used to think that way, and I've had to change my perspective through being witness to other people who don't need that and saying, oh, it's okay to just chill out and take a step back and just be with these people. It's not about being the best person in the band or the best composer in your year or the best gymnast on that stage.
Yes, yeah. It's just being.
Well, thank you for joining me. I'm very excited to share your music video / dance film for Rectify the Past.
Yes, how exciting.
In tandem with this episode.
It is
the world
me.
to
I
see
will
it.
have different hair, but it is me.
Yes, it is you and Cheryl Mackenzie.
Yay! God, what a pair.
Yeah, a relay race to the finish, it
Yeah.
really is, towards the end of that epic record. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Yay!
Thank you for sharing, being so
Always.
open.
Yeah, always.
Can't wait to see where you go now.
Yay!
Oh my God, you're so
Don't forget to
good.
subscribe, follow, and review this podcast. And if you like it, share it with your friends or on social media. You can find me on social platforms at Deep Down with Jordan Hunt and at Jordan Hunt Music. Deep Down uses bits of my music from my song Ocean Floor, and you can listen to my music on all streaming services. I'd love to hear from you via DM or via my website, jordan-hunt.com, if any of these experiences resonated with you, and there you can sign up to the mailing list for announcements and updates. Thank you so much for listening.